The masses have never thirsted after truth. They turn aside from evidence that is not to their taste, preferring to deify error if error seduced them. Whoever can supply them with illusions is easily their master. Whoever attempts to destroy their illusions is always their victim. According to the psychologist Carl Jung, the greatest threat to civilization lies not with the forces of nature, nor with any physical disease, but with our inability to deal with the forces of our own psyche. We are our own worst enemies, or as the Latin proverb puts it, man is a wolf to man. In Civilization in Transition, Jung states that this proverb is a sad yet eternal truism, and our wolf-like tendencies come most prominently into play at those times of history when mental illness becomes the norm rather than the exception in a society, a situation which Jung termed a psychic epidemic. Indeed, it is becoming ever more obvious, he writes, that it is not famine, not earthquakes, not microbes, not cancer, but man himself, who is man's greatest danger to man, for the simple reason that there is no adequate protection against psychic epidemics, which are infinitely more devastating than the worst of natural catastrophes. In this video, we are going to explore the most dangerous of all psychic epidemics, the mass psychosis. A mass psychosis is an epidemic of madness, and it occurs when a large portion of a society loses touch with reality and descends into delusions. Such a phenomenon is not a thing of fiction. Two examples of mass psychoses are the American and European witch hunts of the 16th and 17th centuries, and the rise of totalitarianism in the 20th century. During the witch hunts, thousands of individuals, mostly women, were killed, not for any crimes they committed, but because they became the scapegoats of societies gone mad.
What's going on, everyone? It's Nina Infinity. Welcome to my channel on this Wednesday night. It is Breaking the Narrative with my guest, the very lovely Keri Smith. How are you tonight, Keri?
Hi, Nina. I'm good. I'm having a Red Bull to make it through this late night stream. But I'm
no
good.
worries. I love your hat.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. Like I was telling you before the show, it's funny because now on our show, on Unsafe Space, there are some people who, if I don't wear the hat, they're sort of like, what's wrong? Why isn't she wearing the hat? And I'm like, I don't always wear it. It's just, I think if you wear it at least 50% of the time, like if you wear it at least 50% of the time this day and age, people think, oh, it's a thing. You always
You're the
do it.
hat lady now. Like,
right. But women used to always wear hats.
You might as well just own it and just become like Keri Smith, the hat lady, or like just have your channel just changed completely to Keri Smith, the hat lady.
Yeah. Funny enough, one of our team members is called Keith the Hat Guy.
Oh,
he always wears a hat.
That's hilarious.
He's very helpful. Yeah.
Well, it's really good to see you tonight. I caught your the first time I got to know you was through Friday Night Tights with Neurotic.
Oh, cool.
So that's the first time I ever saw you. Was your first show with them, and I was like, this lady, she's smart. She's a smart cookie. So I started to follow your Twitter, and I started following all the stuff that you were saying, and I was like, oh my gosh, you share so many points of view that I do with regards to psychology and what's going on in our world, and just dealing with all the madness and just recognizing how crazy it all is. I feel really compadre, we're compadres in that sense.
Good.
Oh my God,
yeah.
guys, we see the same thing. So I wanted to bring you on here so that we can kind of break the narrative on what's going on right now with regards to gender dysphoria, DID, which I think is really kind of like very tied into what's going on with gender
Yes.
dysphoria. And then and just talk about your journey of like, how did you end up doing Unsafe Space? Like, how did you end up like where you are right now? So tell us a little bit about yourself and about where people can find you.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me. And first of all, I'm looking at this quote. This has become one of my most referenced quotes the past year, and I'm going to read it because you'll understand why. You mentioned madness. This is a very old quote from Saint Anthony the Great. And he said, "A time is coming when men will go mad, and when they see someone who is not mad, they will attack him saying, 'You are mad, you are not like us.'" What does that sound like?
That sounds like everybody on Twitter.
That sounds like where we're at right now. And
Yeah.
it's also, it sounds like projection, which is what's happening, where I see people defending positions and practices that not that long ago we would have all collectively as a society, called them insane. See that being defended, and I see people who are arguing on behalf of reason and cool-headedness. Those people are being called crazy. So it's like completely flipped around. I don't know, that I think about that quote a lot. But
that's a great quote, and it really resonates, because especially when you're like I was saying, like when I found your stuff, I was like, oh, hey, there's another non-crazy person, like, like
Yes.
it's rare to find that these days, especially on Twitter. You're like, because everybody just seems like kind of like they've lost it. It's also like when you go out in public right now and you see people without a mask on, and you're like, hey, those are my people.
Yeah. It's like the
meme.
I saw a meme from Hunger Games with Katniss where she's like this, she's like kissing fingers at someone who's non-masked. It's like that when you see someone.
That's good. I haven't seen that one.
Me.
That's a good meme.
Yeah.
We got a $50 super chat. Thank you so much from America the Free. Says Red Bull is full of cancer-causing crap.
I know.
Stop. Love from Vegas.
Thank you, America the Free, for the super chat for Nina. But look, I totally appreciate it. I usually don't drink them. They're sort of, now I've only been drinking them when I have to do a late night podcast. I drink them on Friday night tights.
Girl, get yourself at least like real, like cold coffee, like Red Bull.
That's what I should do.
He's right. Yeah. He's right. Just get like actual like iced coffee, like in the can or whatever.
That's usually my vice of my remaining vice of choice. But
it's like one of those things. Like if you're gonna do something wrong, at least do it right.
That's funny.
But
to
America
answer
the
your
Free
question,
is in Vegas, though, and have a great time in Vegas, man. I know there's a fan meetup going on over there.
Oh, right.
So yeah, I hope you have a fantastic time. And also Demogenize here and says, hey Nina, hey Keri. Hi Demogeni.
Hi.
Good to see you. Lots of people in the chat right now. Really, really awesome people. And what were you saying? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no. So to answer your question, for anyone who doesn't know, I co-host a show called Unsafe Space. I am laughing at the super chat that said you only live once, drink Red Bull. Brought to you by Red Bull. I co-host a show called Unsafe Space with my friend Carter Laren. And for anyone who doesn't know our show, we're a culture podcast, and we have radically different points of view on some things. I'm a pretty new Christian. He's an atheist. He's ANCAP. He's an anarcho-capitalist, and I guess people might be more familiar with, he's sort of like a libertarian, but a little different. I'm still learning all the differences. And I consider myself, if I have to define myself, I guess I'm pretty personally conservative, but politically liberal. I was a lifelong Democratic voter, and I was in the social justice cult, although I didn't realize it was a cult. I didn't think of it that way, which a lot of people who are in it, they don't think of it that way. But I was in that for about 20 years, and I started waking up to what it really is, and starting to better understand what it really is in 2016, 2017. And so we started the podcast together in 2018, I believe it was, because he saw the changes that were happening in me. I was trying to figure out what was going on in the world and what was going on inside of me in terms of why am I now questioning all these beliefs that I've held so strongly for so long?
Mhm.
And I was seeing things around me that didn't make sense. It was like, wait a minute, like my side is now bloodying people up and engaging in violence and censoring and doing all these things that are not liberalism. And that just it was the crack in the foundation that I needed to start questioning everything. And so as I was trying to figure this out, I was losing a lot of friends. I used to work in entertainment, and I specifically had built a kind of niche for myself where I did a lot of social justice stuff in entertainment. I managed comedians, and I pushed social justice through the comedians I chose to work with and the projects that I chose to work on. And so when my views started changing, I was burning all those bridges. People were, doing what you see online. They were calling into question my moral character, my privilege, what was happening to me. Was I getting red pilled, all this stuff. And so as that was happening, I was losing a lot of so-called friends, but I was hearing from people like Carter, who suddenly was like, wait, what's going on with you? Now I'm interested in knowing more. And so we started the show together, and it's kind of turned into something where a lot of what we do is trying to understand my old belief system and how it got to where it's at now.
Because it is like a very you kind of go through like a cognitive dissonance, right? Like when you're going through that, and then you kind of like you realize. I've gone through something really similar, because when I was much younger, I was also extremely liberal. Like I grew up in Vancouver, Canada, Carrie, and now I live in Mexico.
Okay.
I live in Cancun, Mexico. But
nice.
I'm a snow Mexican. I'm a snow Canadian or snow Mexican, because I'm from Canada, and I was extremely liberal because I was brought up in Vancouver, the most liberal place in Canada, and originally I'm from Iran, so my mom was when we immigrated because my mom didn't want to bring me up in that country, and so she was like OG first wave feminist, and also / communist, because she was she was in that movement when the revolution happened. And so I learned from kind of like her mistakes, and also like understanding what actual feminism is, because that was her original fight, right? And like the freedom of choice and the freedom of being. And I saw like what it turned into. But like when I was younger, when I was a teenager, and like the Iraq war happened, 9/11 happened, and like all that stuff happened, I was completely against all that stuff. So I was, very vocal activist, and short of dyeing my hair, even though I really wanted to, because I really wanted like bright blue hair because I liked anime so much. It wasn't popular back then, though. Like I would have been a trailblazer if I had done it, and I wanted to, but then I didn't, because I was like, I have to like bleach blonde my hair, and that's no, that's not gonna happen. So, but what I'm trying to say is that at some point it's like something happens, and then that egg kind of cracks, and like the mirror breaks and it shatters, and then your entire kind of like reality falls around you, because you're like, wait, did I like how is it that it's so different from what I used to believe? Because I had people tell me, because it's this last election, I can't say I was for Trump, but I was definitely for Trump more than I was for the other guy, Sleepy Joe. And I would talk to my friend John. John talks a lot about that. And I had a lot of people tell me, like, a lot of my family members were like, what's wrong with you? Like, how are you a Republican now? And how are you this? And how are like, you've changed, And I'm like, I'm not the one that changed. You guys changed. Like, I still believe in everything I used to believe in. And I still believe in human rights, and I still believe in feminism, and I still believe in all that kind of stuff. But it's like you changed, and I feel like I'm in the twilight zone now, because liberalism means something completely different than what I grew up with now. So and also we got another super chat. My gosh, for another $50.
Wow, America the Free.
Making it rain over here. In the end, God wins. We need to unite against division, love, not hate. I mean, yes to all of that. Absolutely. Whether you believe in God, like, however you believe in God, I believe in spirituality and I'm connected to God in that way. I don't have a set religion, but yes, I believe in God, and I believe in everything you just said. America the free. I hope you're winning big in Vegas, and that's why you're spending it over here. I hope you win more. All of that good stuff. Thank you so much. We also had another super chat from 200 Watt Studios. Thank you so much. Says, hey, Keri, great to see you. Hey, beautiful Nina. Hello. Good to see you, 200 Watt. But yeah, so it's it's just a really weird scenario that we've gotten ourselves into now, because I feel like I'm not that different, but I guess I am, but I don't know.
It's sort of, the world is changing around us, and the left, the idea, like you said, the idea of what it means to be liberal and the makeup of the left has changed, and culture has changed. And then at the same time, but in reaction to that, there are things in me that have changed. But for the most part, it's the world that's changing more. Yes, I've changed in relation to it, but the liberalism, the very idea of what it means to be liberal, has been turned on its head. Because now people want to call themselves a liberal while they support illiberal things like censorship. And we look at the mass censorship and propaganda happening on social media. It's been happening for a few years now, at least that I've been noticing it. And I couldn't understand when I first started waking up from the social justice cult. I would see friends of mine who considered themselves to be liberal, who were sharing petitions trying to get Alex Jones kicked off of Twitter because it was the last remaining platform that hadn't kicked him off yet, and then it ultimately did. But I couldn't understand that. I'm like, there's nothing liberal about that.
It's so crazy. I remember
speech.
that. And I was just like that too. Like I was trying to figure that out. And then seeing like the bits of kind of like the communist and socialist ideology just trickle in to the liberalism ideology, and just kind of like mixed into this pot. And it's like, this is not what I signed up for at all. Like, when it comes to liberalism, I was like, what has happened to it? And what's so weird is that it's kind of happened to like all sorts of movements, like feminism. And I feel like, in a sense, it's because of the infiltration, what I like to call the infiltration of the psychopathic mind. And I think it's because a lot of these movements, they start out, the old saying that the road to hell was paved with good intentions. It's like, you kind of a lot of these people have a lot of good intentions, and they think they want to do the right thing, and they're doing this for the right reasons, right? But then you have these other people who kind of infiltrate these movements, and they don't have good intentions, and they want you to fail. They want this movement to fail, but they kind of like take it over, but underhandedly, and they spread this really toxic ideology. And that's what I think is actually behind most of what is going on with all these movements, whether that's, I wouldn't to say BLM, but BLM would be one of them as well. The whole, the entire, like the movement of, the racial justice stuff, gender identity, all this kind of stuff, feminism. Now it's like neo-feminists are taking over, and they're all just fucking insane. And I'm like, that's not what feminism used to be. Hating men wasn't feminism. Like an idea, and it just wasn't.
No. And I think what you're seeing happen is, in a lot of ways, this ideology is making use of and devouring and sort of assuming the old structure of these different movements for civil rights. So once these movements, whether it was for civil rights for Black people, or for women's voting rights, or for gays and lesbians to be able to marry, these movements achieved their measurable end goals. But then what happens to the apparatus? You've still got the apparatus. You've still got a ton of organizations and so-called nonprofits where people like make a lot of money in the nonprofit industrial complex, but you got all these nonprofits and people who make a living based on fighting these injustices. Now, if you've gotten rid of all the legal impediments, if you've reached your measurable end goals, then what happens? And I think the apparatus stuck around, and this ideology, which, as you correctly pointed out, it's just communism and Marxism in a different name. It's just mutated.
They've repackaged
They've just changed a few things.
Yeah.
They've repackaged it. It's the modern day. Instead of being about, the social justice for dummies, as I explain it, is like it used to be Marxism was basically saying, the best way to look at the world is as a competition for wealth among class groups. And we need to redistribute the wealth so that all these different groups are equal. We need to forcibly take it from some groups and give it to other groups, and then we'll all be equal. And it failed. It failed massively, and millions of people died because you see that. I think this ideology is naturally set up for corruption because it's about forcibly taking things, first of all. And then they've repackaged it, and now they're basically saying, well, actually, it's a struggle for power among identity groups. That's what it's about. And now we need to forcibly redistribute power. And if we can just take power from over here, from this group, and give it to this group, and then we equal thing, and then we'll all be equal in this utopia. And it's going to have the same end result. But it moved in, and it took advantage of all these different identity group movements. So it took advantage of, it's like the carcass of feminism. It just animated it and brought it back to life. And it's the antithesis of what, like the civil rights movement, what Martin Luther King Jr. fought for. That was about treating people as individuals. That was about individualism.
Yep.
If you go all the way back to abolitionist Frederick Douglass, what he wrote about, he talked about the same thing as Martin Luther King. He basically said, there's an essay that a lot of the social justice people like to reference on the 4th of July. It was an essay that Frederick Douglass wrote called, I'm gonna paraphrase the name because I can't remember the exact wording, but what to me a slave is the 4th of July. And if you read that essay, he's not saying what they say he's saying at all. I don't think they've read it, or they've read it and they're being dishonest. That essay, he talks about what makes America great. And he talks about our founding principles. And he says, we're not living up to those founding principles of individualism, of equality, regardless of race. He basically says, I'm going to hold America's feet to the fire that we live up to these principles, because these principles are worth everything. And that's what the civil rights movement used to be about. And now social justice is the opposite. It says, let's not judge people on the basis of their character or their behavior. Let's judge them on the basis of what race they are and what sex they are, and let's treat them differently. And that's the way to get equality.
Yeah, and that's why they keep talking about the systemic racism, right? Like, because it's like they want to put everyone in this group and then say, hey, you didn't achieve anything in your life because it wasn't your fault. You didn't have to make an effort or anything in your life. There's no responsibility to be had here for whatever goes wrong in your life, because everything was against you. And therefore, you failed as an individual and you have an excuse, and that's okay. And it's all because the system was the problem, not you or any of the choices that you made. So there's like literally like nobody's taking any responsibility, and we're just like teaching our kids to just be like, whatever. I'm just gonna go with the flow, And it's really, it's a very jarring realization to, like, all the stuff that you just said is absolutely mind-boggling, really, when you think about how deeply the groups have been infiltrated. And with regards to Martin Luther King too, the other thing that really is interesting to me is that most of the young kids nowadays that are following the BLM and all that kind of stuff, they don't really even understand that Martin Luther King was a reverend, and he was very religious, and he was very spiritual, and that connection with God has been completely severed, and spirituality in itself. So they're always like kind of like perpetuating this like non-spiritual belief, and saying that like if you're a Republican, then you believe in kind of like Christianity, and therefore I don't know, they're making it like it's bad. It's a bad thing to believe in God now.
Oh yeah.
And it's just,
well, they have to, because
really weird.
Because just like if you interview people who, we got to talk with Lily Tang Williams. Lily, she goes by Lily for Liberty.
Okay.
Okay, so she was in the Maoist Cultural Revolution. She was one of the children, the Red Guard, and she's an American citizen today. But she talks about how this is the same thing, just warmed over and mutated. We're seeing the same thing, and there's so many similar characteristics, and one of those is they have to get rid of any competitive belief system. Because the belief system is this ideology is its own kind of faith, and you can't have anything that challenges it. And so Christianity, Islam, look at China today. They're persecuting the Uyghurs, the Muslims. They're persecuting the Christians.
Yeah.
You can't have a competitive belief system. It's this ideology and the state, the government. And I think
that's what happened in my country, right? Like, I mean, in Iran, in when the revolution happened, prior to the revolution, when the basically when the Muslim, the theologists, they wanted Iran to be they wanted to take it over. So they used the communists because they understood that that was their battle, right? So like they used them, and once they used them to get rid of the monarchy, then they went in and slaughtered all the communists.
Wow.
Because they understood this cycle, and they understood that in the long run that they would be a threat. But they used them to get rid of the monarchy, and then after the monarchy was gone, they were like, "Well, now
isn't that amazing?" Yeah, useful idiots, right?
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. Yep.
Yeah.
And Force of Light Entertainment, hello, says for $4.99, Keri helped me understand things I struggled with and couldn't find words for at my seminary. The light went off when I heard her the first time. That's so awesome.
Thank you. Is that Michelle?
So yes, it is. Yes, it is. And they were my guests last week. Well, Michelle was, her sister was, it was a little too late for her, but I'm going to have them back on the channel for sure. But they told, when I told them that I was going to have you on, she was like, I love Keri so much. And Natalie loves you too. They both, they're big fans.
Well, I would love to talk with you ladies sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. You should definitely get in touch with them. It's Force of Light Entertainment on Twitter. I'll send you their Twitter info so you can get in touch. And then we had John Burns. Thank you so much for the $10. Says, I've been speaking about how everything the government takes out more money in loans. Eventually, the money will go to the billionaires, and the more money loaned, the more billionaires. Liberals hate that.
It's weird though. See, like you're saying, we're starting to see that a complete reversal of what these words mean. So you would think liberals hate that, but look at what's been happening lately. The left is in love with corporations right now.
Yeah.
And with billionaires. And that wasn't, I'm like, wait, what happened? I thought we were progressives. Like,
Bezos is a hardcore lefty liberal, and he's probably like the most, he's probably the richest man on earth right now, isn't he? Like,
yeah, and they're fine with these private corporations can do what they want. They keep saying private corporations can do what they want. Well, yeah, they can, but it doesn't make it moral or ethical. Cool. So okay, I'm gonna reach out to Force of Light.
You definitely should reach out to Jane as well. Jane Theory is also another very smart,
Theory. Okay.
amazing lady. We talk all the time. She's very smart cookie. Very smart cookie.
I like smart cookies.
Yeah, she's amazing. 200 Watt Studios, thank you so much for the $20. Wow, thank you. It says, recently a friend I've known for a few decades basically go from my best friend to accusing me of being anti-vax. I had 2 Moderna jabs. Trump supporter. I never talk politics, etc. Out of the blue, it was crushing. It's a really weird situation right now, 200 Watt Studio, because this is kind of like, and again, like I'm not I'm not a religious person, but there is some verses, especially like in the Bible, and like these things that you kind of like sometimes you cannot deny its accuracy. And I know there's a verse that talks about how like in the end times, like, you know, men, like father will go against son, and mother, like, you know, mother will go
Yes.
against daughter, and like all the stuff. And this is really what's happening now in our society. It's like, if it wasn't politics like driving us absolutely insane and dividing us into like, you know, left and right, it is now this whole anti-vax thing. And it's kind of, and there, it's by design. 200 Watt Studio, it's kind of like why I chose that video that I did today to explain this, and last week with the George Orwell thing. It's by design. They really do want a totalitarian takeover of our world, and it's up to us to stop it by having these kind of conversations, and really like pointing it out and being like, just, you know, shining the truth on it, whatever that means, right? Like it like, for example, with you, it's not that you're anti-vax. Like, it's just, that's ridiculous, right? Like, it's and it's, I understand how crushing it is. Like that division is so crazy, but that's why you're here with us and talking about with like-minded people, and understanding that you're not alone. There's, you know, just having that understanding, I think, would help a little bit, but it's tough. It's definitely a really tough time to go through that. America the Free, thank you so much for the $20. Says, to people in chat that want receipts, Trump won. Did he? I don't know. I haven't seen him in the POTUS at all, dude. I don't know about that. I don't know. Oh my goodness. Oh wait.
I wanted to say something to your, if I could.
Sure. Go ahead.
To 200 watts about being called anti-vax, even though you've taken the jab.
Absolutely.
And pro-Trump, even though you don't talk politics. If you watch the way propaganda works, they've done a very good job of using propaganda to, it's sort of this mass delusion that they've created, that humans are naturally tribal. Let me start there. We all know this, I think.
Yes.
If you don't, I mean, we've all been to a sporting event. Like, you get into it even if you're not into sports. We're very tribal. I think sports is a really healthy way to exercise that part of us that's naturally tribal. But so we're naturally tribal. They play into that. The propaganda plays into that, and they try and make us tribal in these ways where we have like these in groups and out groups. And so they've associated unbelievably, they've politicized this virus and the response, the government response to the virus. And so something that's not naturally right or left, like what your stance on whether the government should be able to arbitrarily shut down some businesses and not others, right? Which is what happened. Lockdowns. They came in and the government arbitrarily, which is against the Constitution, said some businesses are essential, some are not. We're closing these. And what happened? All these mom and pops went out of business. There's a huge wealth transfer to all these big corporations that stayed open. Your stance on whether the government has a right to tell you if you can go to work or not, or make a living and provide for your family, that doesn't have anything to do with right or left. That has to do with individualism versus authoritarianism. Like, do you believe that you own yourself or the government owns you? That's not a right or left thing. And so before they politicized it as right and left, the media got a hold of it and turned it into this right left thing. You saw more people who were just naturally, organically, their positions lined up with what they thought on that authoritarian individualism scale. So, for example, I have conservative family members who are a little bit more authoritarian. And they were like loving the lockdowns and the mask mandates, right? And then where I live, in my small town, all the anti-lockdown protests and the mask protests were organized by the lefty hippies who are super individualist. And so it wasn't a right or left thing. But then the media, it turned into, it's just a constant, massive assault on this of propaganda, where you're seeing, oh, okay, the right thinks this, the left thinks this. And then most people are followers, and most people just get into their tribal. So your friend coming at you and being like, oh, if you think this, then you must be in this tribe. You're an anti-vaxxer and you're on the right and you love Trump and blah, blah, blah. That's like totally cult programming. Like, they believe all that crap.
It is.
And reality says the opposite. You got it. You got the vax. But
that's so crazy to me.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Sorry, that's a long rant.
Oh
but-
no, that's an amazing response, and you're absolutely right. The Seaman for $5 says, "Funny how fast racist turn into comply."
Resistors, yeah.
Yeah.
They're not resisting
Oh,
anything.
resist. I thought
Yeah.
I thought he was talking about the racist. Never mind. Funny how fast resist turned into comply. You're right. Yes. Resist. It's kind of so crazy what's going on. John Burns, thank you so much for the $5. Says leftists hate CEOs and other billionaires, Bezos, Branson, and Musk. The more money they make, the more they hate them. Do they? I don't know, man. I don't really know.
I think they used to, but they're being changed. The propaganda's changing. They're being told to trust, like authoritarianism is really taking hold of the left right now. And they're like all about authority figures and people like Bezos and people like Fauci and these sort of so-called experts and leaders and what's his face, the guy Bill Gates. I mean, they're putting a lot of stock in behind these people in a way that I didn't used to see people on the left do.
What the hell happened to Bill Gates? I mean, I all I heard from him was he you know, his wife was about like they're gonna get divorced, and then all of a sudden he's out of the media. Have you noticed that you don't hear a word coming from Bill Gates? I don't remember the last time I saw him in the news. It's like,
no, I haven't. That's interesting. No, I haven't.
What happened to him? Like, I have no idea, but I don't know. I just think it's interesting that he's like nowhere to be found right now. With all the stuff that's coming out about the vax, it doesn't work properly. But we're not talking about that tonight. America the Free, thank you so much for the $20 again. My goodness, you're making it rain here tonight. If you haven't seen all the cheating that's been shown during the Mike Lindell showing of the cheat and all the other videos that had to be banned by social media, you were blind or stupid. Godspeed. Dude, I've been seeing it. It's all very insane. It's just that I can't really talk about it much on YouTube because then this channel will go away and then I can't talk about anything. I've seen. That's the other thing, right? There's not much you can do. You know something happened, but
you're not allowed to even discuss it. Same thing with the jab.
Yeah,
they're like.
I mean, did you see
that
how,
makes me more skeptical than anything?
Did you see how I think it was Rand Paul's Twitter or not Twitter? YouTube got suspended. They suspended him because he talked about what he's like, how he's gonna be putting a motion to not have the masks in schools and blah blah blah, and how he thinks like the jab should be not voluntary and shouldn't be mandated or whatever. And like YouTube was like, nope, you need to stop now, even though he's a doctor. He's a doctor.
Yeah.
But no, you can't.
It's weird living. It's like we're already in the dystopia. I like that you opened up your last video with the Orwell clip. It's like we're already there.
We're already there. And I love how he ends it with, "It's up to you." And I'm like, damn, we're effed. Like we're already there. Like we didn't stop it from taking over. America the Free for another $20. My goodness. And all other videos that had to be banned by social media. You are blind or stupid. Godspeed. Oh no, did I get that already? Or that was another one? Oh no, that was, wow. He said the same thing again. Dude. No, I hear you, man. I know there's a lot going on with that. Guys, I'm going to take a minute here from the super chats and I'll get back to them. But I just wanted to kind of get into the topic of especially like with regards to this whole idea of gender politics and everything like that, because I have an idea that because years ago I read the book Myth of Sanity by Martha Stout. And this book really opened my eyes to a lot of stuff. This is the book here. It's called The Myth of Sanity, Divided Consciousness and the Promise of Awareness. And she also wrote The Sociopath Next Door, which is also a really great read. And what happened with my journey was that I dealt with someone that was very like, it was a very psychopathic person. And when you deal with someone like that, I don't remember where I read it, but I read somewhere that because I'm such a sci-fi person, somebody had said it's the alien takeover of our world is not quite what you think. It's the psychopaths that are actually have already infiltrated.
Yes.
And you don't really understand that until you actually deal with a psychopath in your life. And then you realize how different they really are from you and how they think. So I remember when that experience happened to me, I decided to pick up this book, and I read this book. And originally, before Martha Stout kind of coined the phrase dissociative identity disorder, because she talked about it was known as you say, multiple personality disorder. So what happened with Martha is that she came out and she basically described this idea of this person. The reason that they go through DID or multiple personality disorder is usually because of extreme trauma that happened to them when they were kids. And they've forgotten it. They've forgotten this trauma. Somehow they've blocked it. It was a defense mechanism, and they've blocked the trauma. And usually they form different multiple personalities in order to face that trauma in their daily life. So, this idea was really like fascinating to me because I was always into like, crime novels and like,
Me too,
the
yeah.
mind of a psychopath and understanding
Yeah.
that and everything like that. So when I started to read that book, it really spoke to me on so many levels. And then as time has gone by, I've noticed this weird decline that we're in, like in terms of our mental health state, because at one point I remember a few years ago, like 10, 15 years ago, there was this big conversation online, like about mental illness and like what that means. And coming out in an understanding and having empathy for people who have mental illness and being like, okay, well, we recognize that mental illness exists in our society and we have to do something to address it. But I think we went from addressing it to completely just jump the shark over this. And then we were like, okay, we're not just going to address it. We're going to basically start letting people believe in their delusions and understanding and not recognizing that they're having this personality within themselves because they've had trauma and because they've had, they have to kind of face those things within themselves. We're just going to be like, oh, that's okay. This is how you were made and you're fine. And I think that part of that comes from the idea that we were so unkind to gay people at a certain place in our society because because people didn't understand that, like whether they came from religious backgrounds or whatever, and how gay people were treated unnaturally. Now we're trying to, as a society, overcompensate by saying all these people who don't believe that their sexuality matches their gender or whatever are now put in this umbrella term of LGBTQ, and we're just going to be fine with that. And I'm not fine with that. Personally, no. I'm not fine with that at all. And I've actually pulled up some examples here. So first, Keri, did you have anything to say about what I just said? Because I kind of went on a rant.
I have a lot of things. First of all, I think people, if they want to get a better understanding of what's currently happening in our society, like this ideology that's become dominant, and I don't know how many people subscribe to it as true beliefs, but it doesn't matter because it is currently has the reins of power and that's every cultural institution, whether you're talking about the entertainment industry or you're talking about politics currently or journalism, the media, big social, all the companies that provide what is now the public square, and talking about what you can and can't say on this video even, or you'll get censored. This ideology holds all the power right now. And if people want to understand it more, there's a lot of different types of reading you can do. Some of that reading has to do with where it came from. You can read about Marxism, you can read about history, you can read about totalitarianism and things that have happened in Maoist China or in Soviet Russia, in Iran, or you can read about psychopathy and sociopaths, and you can read about cults, and because you can learn a lot about it from that too, if you want to look at the mental, the mass mental illness part of it. And it's there is a really great podcast. You would love this guy. You have to talk to him. It's a new podcast. It's called Disaffected. Sorry,
Okay.
Disaffected with Josh Slocum.
Okay.
And we've had him on our show. He talks about this ideology, social justice ideology, all of it through the lens of cluster B personality disorders.
Okay.
So that would be the sociopaths and the psychopaths, which fall under the antisocial personality disorder. So that's antisocial, histrionic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and narcissistic personality disorder. Those four, and all four of those share some traits in common. One of them being pronounced narcissism. But he comes at this belief system just through that lens, which I think is really valuable sometimes to just understand something and focus on one part of it in that way. So that was one thing I was thinking. I think it's actually, it's for somebody who hasn't read a lot about this stuff. They'd probably like, how did having a narcissist or a psychopath in your life, Nina, get you to the place of being interested in this belief system? Was like, oh no, I totally understand that.
No, well, I'm telling you, man,
Yeah.
once you experience some crazy person like that, and they're really like in your life,
Yes.
you really realize that you're up against something that's completely unnatural. It's not a
Yes.
natural state of being, and they make you go crazy. So like they kind of make you go crazy, because then you start to kind of question your own sanity. And first of all, you'll lose sleep, which
Yeah.
automatically makes you crazy anyways, right? And then just your own sense of self.
Gaslighting.
Gaslighting. Yeah,
Yeah.
you completely, you lose your sense of self, and you lose everything that kind of makes you who you are. And then and then once you wake up, you're like, how did I survive this? You don't even realize like how you survived it until afterwards, and like you kind of like over that hump.
Yeah.
But it's really fascinating stuff. And now, so
Yeah.
like this is where we've come as a society, like where I see stuff like this every day, like and I'm just kind of like at an actual like I'm not okay with what's happening here. Like okay, so we're gonna listen to this person I've seen several videos from. And she, he, they, whatever they want to be called. um okay, I'm just gonna let them speak for themselves. Okay, here we go.
Welcome back to What's That Sexuality? Today's sexuality is trixic. Now, trixic is actually quite complex, especially since it's a new term. The basic definition is a non-binary person, no matter their orientation, who is attracted to women. But it's not always an exclusive attraction. The opposite of trixic is toric, which is the same thing except attraction to men. Now, someone who is trixic can also identify as a non-binary lesbian or feminomoric, though feminomoric is an exclusive attraction to female, the opposite of which is virimoric. The reason trixic or toric is so new is because the term non-binary is so new. It's also the reason why it's not very well known. Trixic flag contains the colors yellow, pink, magenta, and purple. The toric flag contains the colors purple, lighter purple, blue, green, and dark green. I hope you guys learned something and have a wonderful day.
I learned that you're a crazy person. So like there's stuff like this, and then there's another one that I wanted to show because I saw this the other day and I was like, what are you
Somebody
talking?
says in the chat, this is LOL, this is serious, Keri. It is serious. I absolutely agree, but you also have to laugh at it. It needs to be mocked.
If you don't laugh, you're gonna cry. Okay.
Yeah.
So you might as well laugh at it, because honestly, this is kind of crazy. That what's happening in our world is nuts. And that's why we're here to laugh at it and break it down. And that's why people call these people clowns, because they really are like clowns sometimes. This is a clown world. That's where we're living at. And it's the first part of any recovery to anything is admitting that you have a problem. So here we go.
I just made pronoun bracelets and I would like to explain them. This one stands for he, him, so green and blue, more masculine colors, I guess. This one stands for she, her, so pink and purple, more feminine color. And then this one stands for they, them, and it's yellow and orange, which are like gender neutral colors. When I wear this one, it means that I just go by they, them. When I wear these two together, it means I go by she, them. When I wear these together, it means I go by he, them. When I wear all of them, it means that I go by all pronouns. And when I wear these together, it means that I go by she, him. I'm gonna wear them all right now because I go by all pronouns right now. My pronoun, preference has changed 3 times today.
Wow.
It does not happen very often with me, but I'm wearing all 3 right now.
Okay, so in her own words, right? Like my pronoun thing changed 3 times today. So to me, that's automatically like I put this person as dissociative identity disorder. This is a person who has a clear cut case to me of extreme trauma where they cannot understand the difference between the prime self rather than all the different identities that lie within. And get triggered. And actually, that is a word that she uses. And once something happens to you that triggers you, that other personality surfaces. So where have we come as a society where we're okaying this? Like we've come to a point where we've decided that mental illness is like this is not mental illness, because I can get canceled for actually calling these people mentally ill. It's like, I don't know. It's this really weird thing because we have to be okay with their delusions, and I'm not okay with their delusions.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to say about it.
Well, on Disaffected, on the podcast I mentioned, he would say, probably just based on knowing him and watching his show a lot, but he actually puts a lot of these people in the BPD group, in the borderline personality group, because it is a very unstable sense of self, of identity, which is one of the characteristics of BPD. But you're right. I've been learning more about DID, dissociative identity disorder, and it's no wonder that is now skyrocketing as well. I think it's all related. And to answer your question, one of the things that happens in this belief system is because it says as its basic foundational belief or structure is that it tells us that the world is a struggle for power between identity groups, and that every facet of identity can be broken down into an oppressor and an oppressed group, or they call it privileged and marginalized. They use that interchangeably. And so if you look at all these different facets of identity, they do that with race, they do it with sex, they do it with sexuality, and they also do it with mental health. It started off, they were doing that with mental health, where you would see people suddenly in their Twitter bios, they were putting all of their different identity groups that they're in, and they're like, I'm Black and I'm bisexual and I'm fat. Fat is one, whether or not you are a person of size or not, that's one. And then they would put, and I have borderline personality disorder or anxiety and PTSD. They would put all these mental health things in there. And to anyone who's not following along and watching how this ideology has morphed and mutated, they're probably like, why are you putting that in your bio? And it's like, because they're viewing that as a very intrinsic part of their identity. And if you're in an ideology or a belief system that tells you that your mental health problems are a fixed part of your identity, that's really dangerous. You're not going to, and that you get marginalized status for it. You get special victimization status for it. You get to say you're in one of the oppressed groups because of it. That's setting up every incentive the opposite way of where you want it to go. It's like every incentive is there for you to stay in your mental health problems, to view it as who you are, to not get any better, to actually get worse.
Yeah. Because now everyone, like I said, like now it's like everyone's feeding into the delusions. Like it's the cases in Martha Stout's book. She actually goes through like her actual cases of people who she dealt with that have this personality disorder, and it's fascinating to read how some of them come about and everything like that. And it's just,
which book is this one? Myth of Sanity?
Yeah, The Myth of Sanity. Okay. Like she literally writes down like her actual cases of the people that she dealt with, like, and that had multiple personality disorder as it was known at the time, because Martha Stout changed the name to dissociative identity disorder. And to make it more accurate assessment of what is happening to these people, because it really does have to do with trauma. And I think a lot of these kids, a lot of these
Yeah.
people who are online are dealing with extreme trauma. Now that whether that's internal trauma or external trauma, that remains to be seen. But it's something that I think that needs to be addressed in our society, that we're letting basically it's the crazy house has become the normal the normal now. Like
Yes.
it's like the patients are running the asylum. Like it's like
Yes.
literally
It's
what's
the
happening.
Saint Anthony quote. A
Yeah.
day is coming when men will go mad, and they
Yeah.
will point at the person who's not mad and say, "You're mad. You're not like us."
You're not
You
like
know?
us. That's exactly what's going on. Like I feel like we're in, like, that, like in Batman, like Gotham, the crazy house where Joker and all them are, like, and it's constantly like, oh, okay, we're living in that place now, like, and it's just Arkham Asylum or whatever. It's like it's like
Yeah.
as if Arkham Asylum is actually our world, or like if you want to take a Superman analogy, that we're now living in Bizarro world, because it
Yeah.
really is the actual opposite of what we're supposed to be doing. And it's just and it is secular too, because we just don't kind of like, it's like we're not connecting the dots, and we keep repeating the same mistakes. And again, what's that called? The definition of insanity, like
Yeah.
doing the same thing over and over, and then
Historically, yes, we keep doing it over and over. As you showed George Orwell before your last video, and we have a book club. If anybody, I'll plug the book club. If anybody wants to join, it's free, to be a part of it and to participate in the discussions. And last year in the book club, we did a lot of the dystopian fiction. We did some Orwell. We did Fahrenheit 451 and Huxley. And one of the things about those books is, when I first started reading them, rereading them as an adult, trying to understand everything that's happening around me, thinking, oh, they're so prophetic. How do they know this is where things were going? But I've recently corrected that I understand now, oh, it's not that they were prophesizing what's to come because it hadn't been done before. They were prophesizing it because it just repeats. It's the same.
It's secular
over
and
and over.
Exactly. And then they saw it happen, and then they know that we were going to repeat it. It's kind of like, it's the other day, like I saw this thing about like 9/11, because we kept saying like never forget, never forget. And now I'm thinking, like, kind of like, in our society, like the young kids, this is only what, like 20 years ago, 30 years ago that this happened, right? And they've already forgotten. Like a lot of people have already forgotten what that meant, or what that day signified, or where kind of like where we've been headed in our world kind of started actually there. Because like today, I think it was Duncan, I forget his name, but he's also been on FNT with you guys.
Clifton.
Clifton, that's right. He said something on a Zuby thread where he was like, I don't know when all this BS started. And I responded with, actually kind of, because they were saying that it started like in kind of like 2015, 2016.
No.
And I was like, no, this stuff kind of started like in 2001, when when you guys okayed the Patriot Act, and then it kind of went all downhill from there. Because it's like, once you open the hen house, right, and like you let the wolves in, it's like, or the fox in, or whatever, like what's next?
That's
right.
That's when I think the ideology started, even way before that, like infiltrating all of our academic institutions. What they call the long march through the institution, that started decades and decades ago. But I think you're right, is 9/11 and the Patriot Act, that marked a change. That was an acceleration point where we set the groundwork for granting a lot of rights basically giving the government the right to restrict the rights of citizens, or to invade the rights of citizens. And we said, well, under certain circumstances, I guess we're cool with
this. Yeah.
Yes. And so now we're seeing that when it comes to lockdowns and mask mandates, and nobody knows anymore. They're like, and even Biden said the other day, the CDC is now going to be interfering with private property rights. The CDC said that they're doing this eviction moratorium, which means that any small mom and pop, like landlords, they can't evict someone if they're not paying rent, or else pay a fine to the government of $150,000. And what's that going to do? That's going to dry up what remains of the small, of the mom and pop, like small businesses, like property owners. Like, it's not going to be, but nobody's going to want to rent to anyone. And they're saying they're doing this to help people, right? Oh, we're going to help people who can't pay rent because of the things we did last year when we restricted people from going to work, right? But they don't want to help. It's not about helping people, because they didn't do anything for property owners. They're not doing anything for mortgage payments. They're not doing anything for property taxes. They're trying to kill the property owner. They want us all to be renters. Yeah. They say this in the World Economic Forum.
Yeah, they said that straight up. They were like, you will own nothing and you will like it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so we've gotten to this place now where Biden can say the CDC is going to do this. It's not in their purvey to do this at all, but okay, they're going to do this. And he's like, it may not be legal, but we're going to do it anyway.
But we're going to do it anyway. I heard that.
And so now it's sort of, we're like, well, I guess the Constitution, sometimes we listen to it, sometimes we don't. When do we not listen to it? I don't know if things are bad enough.
Yeah, it's kind of really weird, because it's like we've literally thrown out a lot of common sense and stuff like that too, because we're like, okay, because a lot of people are under this impression that because they want to help and like because they have everyone's interest that in heart, that that we're the fucked up ones. Like, if you don't want to get vaxxed, or if you don't want to like wear a mask or something like that, then you're crazy because you want to kill grandma and you don't want the world to go back to the way it was. And like, it's all you, like, you're the problem. And like, if it wasn't because of people like us, then, the government wouldn't have to shut down. Like it's your doing. It's not that the government is really fucking you over. It's like you're fucking yourself over, and you're the problem in this. And it kind of makes me go crazy, because I'm like, sometimes I can't understand how people can't see it, but then I do understand it a little bit, because like, America is such a young country for what it is, right? Like you guys are a very young country, and you haven't been through an insane takeover the way my country was taken over. So I feel like, in a way, some of the people have had this kind of like this reality shatter for them, because they haven't experienced it to the full extent the way I've experienced it in my youth and everything like that. And I think that it's starting to happen now in America. Like, it's like people are finally realizing that, oh my God, like totalitarianism and fascism is like literally knocking at the door. And you guys are
look how it comes. Look how it comes. You're saying, they're trying to say, the totalitarians, the authoritarians are saying, and they're convincing lots of people that if you don't go along with these authoritarian measures where the government owns you instead of you owning yourself, that you don't care about people, which is crap, because authoritarianism doesn't care about people. That's the definition of not caring about your neighbor. You're basically saying the government can come in and tell my neighbor whether he can go, work a job and make money to put food on the table for his kids. Like, you're telling him he has to be dependent on the government and become this second-class citizen who looks to the government for sustenance. Like, no, that's evil. But but that's always been the way it comes in. Always. This old quote, we're talking about old quotes. There's another quote that I keep coming back to this year, is Plato. Oh,
I love Plato.
He says this and no other is the root from which a tyrant springs. When he first appears, he is a protector. Yes.
Wow. I mean,
always
just nails it. Like, it's always like, oh, we have the best interest at heart of everybody. Yes. Just listen to us and go along. And it's like, no, this is like mental crap. I'm sorry to interject here a little bit of a pause, because for some reason I don't know what's going on with YouTube, you guys, but for some reason I can't access the super chats on the back end. So I'm gonna try and read as many as I can that are still on the screen. Thank you guys also very much for being here tonight and super chatting and being so generous. And please make sure you're smashing the like and sharing the stream and everything like that. Thank you guys. John Burns, thank you so much for the $5. Says young Americans of Liberty are showing a video of Gavin Newsom getting PO'd at journalists. I heard of that. I didn't watch that today, but I heard he got really, really like PO'd at journalists asking him questions. He didn't expect the recall. Yeah, I heard about that, John. I was looking forward to watching that later tonight. So I'm gonna watch his meltdown because apparently he had one.
I haven't heard that, but that's
yeah,
great.
I'm excited to watch Gavin Newsom's meltdown. Aiken, thank you so much for the $7.99. Says people can't understand that you'll stand against either side if their blah has nothing factual to back it. Truth will out. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Truth shall set you free, as they say. Amazon.com made a fortune. Yeah, they did. Just a tad. 200 Watt Studios, thank you so much for the $20. Says this person was texting me as I was getting the second shot. I have a friend that doesn't want the vaccine. So this friend thinks I'm anti-vax. What the F? The fact that I don't talk politics is why they don't like me, I guess. That is really weird, man. I mean, I don't know. People are that's strange.
Like? That's like they're treating you like they started to treat Dolly Parton. They're really upset that Dolly Parton is not political enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like that she won't. There have been a spate of articles about how they find her problematic because she doesn't talk politics. She doesn't shove it down your throat enough.
Mm-hmm. It's really weird because some people are like, they want celebrities to shut up, and they're like, these like, for example, with LeBron James, like, it's like, oh, shut up and dribble and blah blah blah. We don't want to hear you. And then there's other celebrities where everyone's like, well, what do you think? Like, what do you think of all the stuff going on? And it's like, I'm kind of fine with celebrities not talking about their politics. Really, like, we need less celebrities talking about their politics because it's like, I don't know. I feel like celebrities
we just need to put less. I guess I'm one of those people who I don't have any problem with them stating their opinions, and like any person, it's just I don't give their opinions any more weight than I give
credence.
The opinions of my plumber. Actually, I probably give my plumber more.
Yeah, because you probably know your plumber. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, no, but it's like the other day, like, I remember I read like Jennifer Aniston had come out and talked about like this whole thing about anti-vaxxers and how like they need to be kind of like marked, like we need to know who they are, kind of thing. Like, wow. Yeah, and she had said that she had stopped being friends with several of her friends who were refusing to get the vaccine. She's like, I've had to stop being friends with people because they decided to not vaccinate and blah blah blah. And I'm like, listen, Jenny, love you, girl, but we don't like celebrities in Hollywood giving us morality lessons is like the last thing we need, because everyone knows about pedo wood, everyone knows about Holly weird, everyone knows about like the weird shit that goes on in your city. So if you're gonna come out and say moral stuff to people and give them moral lessons, it's like you're literally the last person on earth I want to hear from when it comes to morality.
Plus you're part of the machine.
Exactly. You're part of the problem.
You're sort of at that point, there's very few of them who go against their own economic interests, put it that way.
Yes.
Or who go against their own social, like they have a certain social credit they get for speaking as part of the machine and representing everything that this like dominant beliefs is. They're part of the establishment.
Absolutely.
Jennifer Aniston, Amazon, YouTube, all these, it's like no different. You're all part of the machine.
Yeah, it's like
Cooper,
the craziest shit too was like, for example, the other day I saw like Philly D. I don't know if you know Philip DeFranco.
Oh yeah.
He came out and he put some crazy tweet out about how like, if you're anti-vaxxer, you're an idiot and you're a moron, fuck you kind of thing. And I used to listen to that guy all the time. I used to watch a show daily. Like this is way before I got into the YouTube thing. I was a huge fan of Philip DeFranco. And I really like took him at his word that he was trying to be, nonpartisan, that he was trying to not take sides. He's just, trying to say the facts as he saw it or whatever. And then it slowly went downhill for him. As the more famous he got, the more it's like he sold out and he sold out and he sold out. And now he's legit exactly what you said. You're part of the machine. You're like
part of the machine. And
Yeah.
the thing is, okay, we could talk about this for a second because this really interests me. I worked in entertainment and I worked with, I worked around celebrity or fame.
Mhm.
And it is very rare, I think, watching, observing human nature. I think it's really rare for someone to achieve fame
Mhm.
and remain grounded. They have to be, I don't know what the mix. It's just like when people say, how do you wake up? I've got a friend who's in social justice. How do I wake them up? There's no one pill I can give anyone. There's no right mix. And I don't know what that mix is, but you have to be grounded before you become famous. I know that is part of it. But
that's why child actors have all these problems, because they're not
Yes.
grounded and they don't know themselves, and then they get taken advantage of most of the time. And
they don't have any context for like what reality is really like. And no one, because people will start kissing your bum. They want things. They think
Yes,
you can
men.
give them things and you
Yeah.
can't. And if you can't, and so I've seen people who went from being relatively balanced to being completely imbalanced because if they wanted to, and some of them did, they could just have yes men all around them. People who want that proximity to fame, money, perceived power, and are willing to say and do anything, and they don't care about character and they don't care about behavior. And that's just, I think that can happen to anyone. That's why it's almost, it's a double-edged sword. It's sort of like when you have something that you feel is important that you want to say, or you want to contribute to the world. Let's say you're an artist or a musician, or you're doing a podcast or whatever that is you're doing. You're an author, you're a writer, you're writing books. It's sort of like, be careful what you wish for, and maybe get grounded before you get there. One person I always thought did it right was Dave Chappelle. He took, because I worked in the comedy world, and so I met him a few times. He worked with some of the comics I worked with. You remember when he left, he walked away from millions of dollars. And what did the machine say? The machine was like, he went crazy. He
went nuts.
Live on a farm. He went nuts. Okay. Again, we're talking about mad people calling a person who's not mad insane. He was doing the same thing, was like trying to get his head on straight. He went to live at a farm with his family and walked away from all that money. And what does the world say? The world says, that's crazy. And I'm like,
well, that's crazy. Or if you're in the case of the conspiracy theorists, there's a lot of weird conspiracy theorists about theories about what happened to Chappelle. Like, have you heard some of the stuff about how, like, they killed him, and like the new guy's like a clone of him, and like all this like weird stuff because there's you gotta YouTube some of the stuff, like conspiracy theories about Dave Chappelle. Some of it I'm like, it's actually insane, because I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't believe half of the stuff, but at the same time I'm like, there's a little part of me deep down inside that's like, maybe
I've heard some of the what's the ones I've heard? I've heard that they use a lot of entertainers. I've heard that they killed Bill Hicks and turned him in, and that he's Alex Jones.
Oh my God. No
that
way.
Alex Jones is Bill Hicks. What's the other one? I heard that Morgan Freeman is actually the great guitarist who died young.
Jimi Hendrix?
Jimi Hendrix, yeah.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Yeah, with the Chappelle thing, it's funny though, because it's kind of come back around in a circle, because now because before he's, like said no to the Comedy Central thing and everything like that. But now he's just made a huge deal with Netflix. He's all about the money now.
I
Like
didn't know that.
Yeah, like he's
That
come back
sucks.
around on a lot of the weird, the weird stance he used to make back in the day. He's come back around. Like the other day, I read something from Dave, and he was talking about, what was it? Oh God, it was something stupid. It has something to do with Trump, but he was like anti-Trump or something like that. I don't remember what it was. It was weird, but I was like, that doesn't sound like Dave Chappelle. And that's why, like, when I read stuff like that, I'm like, this is so weird. Did he really change that much? Because, like, you either really changed that much, or the amount of money that Netflix offered him was probably like so much more than what Comedy Central offered him at the time. Like, I don't know why, but He's changed. Like,
Yeah, I'm looking in the chat and somebody says, yeah, Dave did it in the past, but now Dave has changed. That's interesting. I
yeah.
haven't been keeping up with him. So that would be really sad if he's kind of got pulled into that whole
A
cult,
little
because
bit,
he was like
unfortunately,
a
because I
free
was holding
thinker.
out too. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Same thing with Bill Burr. Like, he's like the last vestige of the old, like, Bill, the old comedians that used to stand up to the man or whatever. Like, for me, but Bill Burr's still like kind of like hanging on. But you can tell that
Yeah.
he's like kind of scared of saying a lot. Like, he's like, ugh, especially like what happened with the last Saturday Night Live thing that he did, and everyone like shat on him anyways. I was just like, the old school guys, that's why you can't really do anything, especially when it comes to comedy. Like, comedy's dead. And that's one of the signs of totalitarian takeover is the fact that comedy is completely dead and that we can't make fun of anything anymore.
Well, but you know what's interesting though is that creates an opportunity and like a really fertile ground for anyone who's bold enough to come from outside the system and just be funny anyway. I was mentioning to you before the show, Chrissy Mayer.
Yes.
She's a great example of a comedian who's just like, F it, I'm just going to do what's funny. And
yeah, she's fantastic.
Yeah.
I would love to talk to her, especially because, well, I've talked to her briefly on Toxic Femme, but I would like to talk to her more because I have never been a fan of female comics, like, ever. Like, I've never liked female comics because most of the time female comics are all about like just, and like just dicks and pussy and like all that kind of like
they got really
vile.
blue in
Yes.
the aughts.
It's just all that kind of humor, and
Yeah.
I've never been like it's never intellectual humor, and it's just all about like your period or like your vag or whatever. And I'm like, could we get some comedians that actually have like a female perspective on a serious issue that has nothing to do with sex or periods or whatever?
Right.
Like, and Chrissy is that person, and I'm like, oh, like, she's so freaking awesome. Like, thank God there's like, like kind of like the antithesis of like Amy Schumer, because I fucking can't stand her at all. Like, I'm just like, I can't stand you, Amy. But
it's such
it's not like Chrissy doesn't make boob jokes and stuff like that, but it's all in good taste and in good fun and like not overdone, Yeah, it's funny. Like,
I think what happened, what you're saying, I recognized that too, is that a lot of comedians, I used to work with Margaret Cho, for example, and that happened to her.
Oh,
it got to a place where it was
Mm-hmm.
just like, her first comedy special, I became a fan, someone who respected her and liked her work because of that special. I still like that special a lot. But over time, it just became very lazy and blue, and it was just crass for the sake of being crass. It's like a lot of popular music today where I just don't get it. I'm like, it's not clever. It's not like the blues used to have a lot of innuendo about sex all the time, right? Like, put your hot dog in my bun, and like, it was all but now it's just this filthy, like, just uncreative, boring filth. And it's almost to the point of the vulgarity is just boring at this point, where I'm like, can you just say something that doesn't involve a vulgar, like, put your blank in my blank, blah blah. I'm so who cares?
Totally. I mean, I totally feel you, and I totally feel you about Margaret Cho. That was the other one. Like, I loved her first comedy special, and I started to really like her, and I was like, oh, this girl's really good. And then she went like the same route everybody else did, and I was like, another one. Like, oh my god. But yeah,
another one. Yeah.
John Burns, thank you so much for the $5. Says in an interview, Bill Gates apologized for his ties with Jeffrey Epstein, even as he downplayed their relationship. Ooh, I can't stand that guy.
I didn't know that.
I don't know if I believe any of his apologies. John Burns also says for $5, Gates, Bezos, Branson, and Bloomberg and Billionaires Club to mine raw materials in Greenland. To mine raw materials in Greenland. I know they also have I know a lot of them are the whole seed bank, like the biggest world seed bank or whatever, because they know whatever is going to go down is going to go down. So they've all gotten like insane amounts of seeds and like all this stuff together.
And
I forget
farmland.
what it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know Microsoft just bought out a shit ton of land, not just, but a few years ago, like right next to where I like not where I live, but like a couple like 20 minutes, 30 minutes down. And it's like a huge plot of land in Mexico. And I like we all know it's been bought by Microsoft, but we don't know what for. Everyone's just kind of like, why did they
That's
buy
weird.
this? Yeah, we have no idea. So thank you so much for that, John. 200 Watt Studios, thank you so much for the $5. Says Carrie, if you don't constantly agree with their political ratings, you're not a part of the cult. You're a threat, right? They use any thread to shun you. That's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
They do view you as a threat. So the fact that your friend, that's the same person who earlier said their friend was calling them anti-vax and Trumper and
Yes.
stuff. It's like
Mhm.
they have you ever seen that movie? You're a sci-fi fan, so it's the one Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yes.
It's got that really iconic image where he's like and pointing,
Yeah.
That's sort of the way it is. If you're not making all the right signals, if you're not putting out the right signals, and they can't recognize you as one of them, like if they've bought into the cult. And so it's like something's off with my friend 200 Watt Studios. He's like, I know he said he got the vax, but he's saying these things that aren't like approved.
Yeah.
And it really is this. It's very culty.
It's very culty. You should read. I know, like sometimes, this sounds like a really weird thing to suggest to people to read, but Charles Manson's book about his cult. If you really want to understand how that mindset works, read his book, because then you'll understand the cult through the mind of a psychopath and someone who was so successful at this cult. He was extremely successful at getting people to do extremely crazy things.
You are so right on. We are two peas in the same pod.
Yeah, I knew
currently
we would
reading
be.
Chaos. Do you know that book?
Which one?
Chaos. It's by Tom O'Neill. So I read Bugliosi's Helter Skelter years ago. The first time I read it, I was way too young to read it, but I learned a lot of things. But Chaos is about Cameron Pasha turned me on to it. He's a screenwriter, and it's this investigative reporter. Yeah, it's this investigative reporter who just stumbled into this huge story. He was supposed to be writing some puff piece on the 30th anniversary of the Manson murders and convictions, and kind of talking to Hollywood about how it changed Hollywood. And he fell into this story that spanned a couple of decades now. I think it's over 20 years. Yeah, that's it. Charles Manson, the CIA, and the Secret History of the 60s. So it is a crazy book. And especially if you've read Helter Skelter, this one will challenge a lot of the narrative that Bugliosi laid out, and also make you question a lot of things about the government.
Ooh, that sounds right up my alley. I will definitely have to check this out. Thank you so much. Deranged Lunatic, thank you so much for the 99-cent super sticker, even though I can't really tell. It's a rose. It's a rose. Thank you so much. That is so sweet of you. And Larry sends us $1. Thank you so much, Larry, for that $1. And I think Midnight Mike the chat skipped on me. No, Midnight Mike sent me something. I saw it and then it jumped. It was a heart super sticker. Thank you so much for that. And then Demonage and I said, I'm a dude who is a dude who likes oh my God, who likes tacos. Oh God, Demonage and I, stop it. And of course the chat thingy jumped on me, and now the super chats are gone. For some reason, there's like this weird thing that's happening with my StreamYard. See, I will show you guys. See, usually here, if I go see all, it opens up a window and it shows you like the super chats, but it doesn't do that anymore for some weird reason. And I also went to Firefox and it wasn't doing that. So therefore, some of these super chats, unfortunately, I might have to do a square up or something. John Burns, thank you so much for the $2. Says Kristen Bell and Dax Shepard don't bathe kids. I read that. Did you see that about Kristen Bell and Dax Shepard not bathing their kids? And then somebody made fun of, well, not fun of, but they were like, I think Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher came out and said, like, we don't really bathe our kids every day either. And then somebody made fun and was like, what about you? Like, to The Rock. And The Rock was like, I shower like 3 times a day, man. I work out. Like, I can't not shower. But I don't know why Kristen Bell and Dax Shepard chose to
I don't know
just
who
come out with that
Dax
kind
Shepard
of.
is, but I've heard of Kristen Bell.
He's also a
And-
comedian. He's one of those weird comedians.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's really funny. My friend used to go to the gym that The Rock went to in LA, and she was like, it's really intimidating working out next to him.
That would be really intimidating to work out next to The Rock. Like, whoa.
At the Equinox.
Oh my God. John Burns, thank you so much for the $2. Says Philly D is scared Gavin might be replaced by AR. Oh, well, I bet because Philly D is a total lefty weirdo now, so I can understand that. John Burns also says for $2, Will Wheaton mentioned his parents taking from him. I don't know what this is.
I think he was talking about money.
Yeah. Latino Slant. Mrs. Slant is grounded AF. That's awesome because his wife is an actress. That's good. That's good.
That's
you
good.
Have to be. And then we had John Burns says Seinfeld ended his show when working Christmas Eve. I love Seinfeld. Do you like Seinfeld?
I do. Yeah.
I love Seinfeld. And I love Larry David. Larry David's my hero.
Yes.
I've always said if there's one celebrity that I could meet and have like dinner with, it would be Larry David. For sure. Hands down. And I know he likes Seinfeld fans. Like he's not one of those people that's like, don't talk to me like if you like Seinfeld. Like he loves it when people go up to him and say like, I love Seinfeld. Like he's like, really? What's your favorite episode? I can talk to him. John Burns also $5 says Trump wins. Chappelle friends were like, we're leaving the US. You? Dave was like, no, I'm gonna wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I remember that like right after the 2016 election, when SNL was going crazy and they were all crying. And I remember what's her face who played Hillary Clinton. She was playing a Leonard Cohen song, like all serious, like crying. And Dark Day in America. You're a comedy show. What are you doing? But Dave Chappelle went on there and had a very different attitude towards it. He was, like you said, like the super chat said, he was sort of like, let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. And also, John again for $2 says Chappelle had fun talking about Jesse Smollett. Yeah, I remember that. That was a good bit when that whole Smollett bit. God, I can't believe that happened. That was a whole crazy thing. And we have a new person here. I've never seen you here. Maldred, thank you
Manny.
so much. Oh, for $15 says wonderful and enlightening discussion, Nina and Keri. Very happy I joined tonight. We need more conversations like these and help the good people open their eyes to what is happening in our world. Well, thank you and welcome to the channel. I hope you subscribe. I do this every Wednesday. I try to talk some intellectual conversations with people once in a while. It's not all about craziness. But what I also do, Keri, I don't know if you know about my other show, is I have another show on Friday where I try to balance out this show and the craziness that is happening in our world with hopeful things, because I would like to think that there's still hope out there for humanity, and that, there's a lot of the stuff that the media doesn't want to show you all the time because it's all about this fear, and they want you to be on edge and they want you to be all, crazy all the time. So they don't show you the good things anymore. And that's why I try to do that every Friday. So it's called Infinite Hope. And that's the other show I have.
I want to come on that one sometime.
Definitely come and hang out, and we'll like I do that every Friday at 3:45. So if you ever feel like it, just be like, hey, can I come and hang out with you on Infinite Hope? I would love to have you on there. I just like basically read about good news articles and talk about good news, and then at the end of it, we just watch like kitty videos, like kitty cats and dogs, and like just laugh about it. It's really good. It's a really fun show. It's wholesome. John Burns, thank you so much for the $2. Says Helter Skelter, the song is about a roller coaster. Is it? I've never heard the Helter Skelter song.
Helter Skelter was from. I thought it was another word for seesaw.
Was it? I don't know. I have
Yeah.
no idea. Yes, Darthosaur, absolutely. You can get the Amazon link to the book. Here it is. I'm posting it in the chat right now. Myth of Sanity by Martha Stout. Here it is. And also, she has another book on there. It's called The Sociopath Next Door. It's also an amazing read. And also in the suggested reads, if you look, there's also another book by Robert Hare. That is also an amazing read. It's called Without a Conscience by Robert D. Hare. And that one is also an amazing book. Just describing people without a conscience and what we're dealing with here on this planet. It's very, very interesting stuff. And then we had another super chat here from 200 Watt Studio. Nina and Keri, really appreciate tonight. Absolutely, man. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all the super chats. You guys are keeping the lights on over here. Thank you. $5 from Rock
Yay,
Lexicon. Hello. Thank you for coming here tonight. And says, hi, Nina, Unsafe Space fan here. Happy to find another wrong thinker. Did you all see that Tom Cotton's amendment passed to not fund CRT in schools? No, I didn't see that. I'll have to look into that. Ooh, okay.
Wow, 10 hours ago. Yeah.
Really? Oh.
That's actually surprising.
Yikes. Okay. And then
well, it's an amendment that would prevent federal funding of CRT. And it passed, which is shocking.
Ooh, okay. I'm going to have to look into that. I don't know anything about that. Maldred, another fan from visiting from Unsafe Space. This is why I love, like correlating streams and everything like that, because I know like on Unsafe Space, you guys have a lot of very intellectual conversations. And I love that. Like, I love that crowd. I think that Unsafe Space is an amazing podcast. And I've listened to some, like a few of yours now. Now that I found you through FNT, I'm like, I love this. Like, I want to listen to like your shows all day. So like, I'll sit there and like do dishes and I'll put on one of your old shows and I'll listen. Like,
nice.
I'm getting to know you and your channel through that.
Well, we do a lot of interviews as part of the show we call Deprogrammed, and that's specifically about my old ideology. So we'll interview different people who either were in it or who are professors trying to help people understand what it is, or theologians trying to talk about it and talk about social justice in the church. Or so that's a lot of interviews. And then every Monday and Friday, my co-host and I do a live show. And on Fridays, you should come one Friday before you do your super fun happy show, because Fridays we do casual Fridays. So we'll bring on a couple of friends of the show or people, and we'll try. And the point of doing casual Fridays is we were going to try to do the same thing, is sort of keep it uplifting and happy. But last week we had two just brainiacs on. We had David Raboy and Professor Michael Rechtenwald. And it got kind of depressing because they were just black pilling everyone. We're like, but then they both pepped it up. Especially, they brought some hope. So,
oh my god, definitely, I'd love to come on. Especially your well, I love to come on both, like your intellectual shows and your your happy fun time whatever shows, and just bring the pep. I can always do that. Because on my show, I literally just read the news that's like good news, like and I vet. I vet all of it, and thank God I do, because I'll say this. Last week, I had a story on CNN. I saw this story about this lady who got like a GoFundMe campaign funded like $200 and something thousand. They gave it to her. It turned out she was full of shit. And I remember that week I made a mental note about not doing that story, because I was like, I don't know, there's something seems off about this story and I'm not going to cover it. Like, I made a conscious decision not to cover it. And then here we are this week. It turns out that whole story was full of shit. And I was like,
you have a good gut, Nina.
Yeah. I listen to it. Like,
Yeah.
I hate when I don't listen to my gut feeling and then something happens and you're like, oh, I knew I should
Yeah.
have listened to my gut feeling.
So
This
many
time I did.
people, that's part of this whole mass psychosis thing is we're being told not to pay attention to our gut.
Yes, exactly. Like, don't listen to your gut feeling about, I don't know, vaccinating yourself when you're pregnant. Like, no.
Or just about people. I remember since somebody mentioned Jussie Smollett, when that story first came out, I was like, my gut's like, no.
Yeah, my gut was like,
wrong.
Yeah.
Something's wrong. But look at all the people who ate it up and just ran with it, like wanting it to be true.
Yep. It's crazy what's going on in our world. John Burns, thank you so much for the $10. Says Chappelle and Chris Rock joining the SNL election night party of whites who can't believe what's happening. One of the women mentioned a nightmare scenario. Dave's all that's your nightmare scenario. Oh man, I remember that.
That's
night. Right. I remember. Oh my God. 200. I loved Dave Chappelle though. I hope that he, I don't know. I hope he doesn't completely sell out. If it is really him and not some crazy clone. You got to look into this, Nat. I'm telling you. I went down this rabbit hole one night and I was like, is this freaking for real?
He got really fit, and so it's probably hard. It's probably easier for people to believe that he's
people
like,
people put like the different pictures like next to each other, and it's like, oh look, well, he looks completely different. I'm like, man, you got to see me when I because I had some weight on me like a couple of years ago, and like now people are like, holy shit, it's like night and day because I'm like I've lost a lot of weight, so you do look really different, and I guess I could be my own clone. Although people think I'm a vampire though, Keri, just FYI. Because I'm so pale and I'm a night person. I don't know. That's all this whole thing. 200 Watt Studios for $10 says, Keri, I'm a small channel with content in the hopper soon. Would you be interested in entertaining the idea of coming on to discuss a film that is appropriate for our times?
No. I'm just kidding. Of course. You can
straight up.
Yeah, just email me.
She didn't even sugarcoat it.
My sense of humor is kind of just childish and silly sometimes.
No, it was amazing.
You should just email me, and you can do that at speak@unsafespace.com.
There you go. Hope you got that. He laughed at your joke. So
good.
It's all good. All right. Keri, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you tonight. I hope we do it again soon.
I want to do it again. I just have to go because my housemate sleeps right on the other side of this wall, and she already went to bed, and I feel bad.
Oh no, it's all good. It's already been I told you we're gonna go for an hour and a half, and I can talk forever, but it didn't feel like it's been an hour and a half. Honestly, I hope we do this again soon, and
we'll do it again. I'm very happy I met you.
So. I'm very happy I met you too. So please let everyone know where they can find you one more time as an outro or whatever you want to tell everybody.
If you guys are on Twitter, our account was permanently banned. So you can follow me at KS as in Sam E Mama Jamma. Like she's a bad Mama Jamma. KSE Mama Jamma.
It's in the description down below, along with her website, her YouTube channel, Unsafe Space, and her Twitter account. It's all in the description. So
yeah, you can find our podcast at Unsafe Space on YouTube. It's just we're not on Twitter anymore. And I need to pick a better name. I didn't pick a name that I wasn't thinking anybody would need to follow me. So there's my,
there we go. But her Twitter is linked down below as well. So make sure you guys are following her on Twitter. And everybody, thank you guys also very much. Everybody who's super chatted, everybody just showing up, having a discussion in the chat. I really appreciate you guys having a good sense of humor, talking to us. I'll be back next week, next Wednesday. But before that, I'll be here for good news to balance out the craziness. So I'll be here on Friday at 3:45 Eastern for Infinite Hope. And then that night, I'll be on the Latino Slant channel singing some 70s songs. So we're doing karaoke evening that night. So I'll be singing some ABBA and some I Will Survive. Hey, hey. I will survive, so you can come and check me out on Latinos Night on Friday night. Yeah, anyways, you'll see it. It's going to be a good night. Keri, it's always a pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Let me just find my outro here. We'll end it with Orwell again. See you guys later. Bye.
Bye, Nina.
Bye.
I think that allowing for the book being, after all, a parody, something like 1984 could actually happen. This is the direction the world is going in at the present time. In our world, there will be no emotions except fear, rage, triumph, and self-abasement. The sex instinct will be eradicated. We shall abolish the orgasm. There will be no loyalty except loyalty to the party. But always there will be the intoxication of power. Always, at every moment, there will be the thrill of victory, the sensation of trampling on an enemy who is helpless. If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. The moral to be drawn from this dangerous nightmare situation is a simple one. Don't let it happen. It depends on you.